One of the most interesting halachas is the mitzvah of sukkah. Do you sleep in the sukkah? Do you not sleep in the sukkah? Someone WhatsApped me this morning. My wife doesn't want me to sleep in the sukkah. Do I have to sleep in the sukkah? Someone asked me the following. He said, Rabbi, if it's 45 degrees in my house, I'm not sleeping in the house. Is he exempt for the mitzvah of sukkah? Baruch Hashem, the way the weather's looking now, it doesn't look like it's going to be 45 degrees even in America. But what is the halacha? And the answer to these questions is, it is very complicated. The reason why it's complicated is because there is a rule, Teishvu ke'en tadul. Teishvu ke'en tadul means that a person has to live in the sukkah the way he lives in his house. Now that's a little bit subjective. The Gemara says, for example, that if someone is very sensitive to gnats and to bees and to flies, then they're exempt from the sukkah. Someone that's not so sensitive to it is not exempt. So it's subjective. The Rav Elyashiv writes another thing. He says, let's say a person has guests over, and the guests are just staying over and they're schmoozing, and he wants to go to sleep, and he wants to maybe sit and learn. So he's mitztayel, he's being pained by his guests. He's also exempt from the sukkah. So what we learn from here is in halacha, there are many, what I would say, exemptions. And if a person is looking for an exemption, there's what to rely on. On the other hand, the mitzvah of sukkah is so precious. The mitzvah of sukkah is so powerfully spiritual. It says in one of the poskim, the Hasidic poskim is brought down in Minhag Yisrael Torah, that a person should have 91 lights. If you're ever wondering where, sometimes someone even said that they used to walk by a certain Hasidic sukkah and they would see all these little lights. They would say, this looks like Xmas lights. What is this all about? This comes from the Chidah and other holy books, right? That person have 91. 91 is a combination of Yud, K, Vav, K. That means Shem Havaya. And Adni, which is Aleph, Daled, and the Nun and the Yud. That means Midas Adin and Midas Arachmim combined together in the sukkah. This is a small little example that shows you why it's so powerful. I once had a Chabadnik that he was my roommate in yeshiva, so he told me that they don't sleep in the sukkah. Why don't they sleep in the sukkah? The mitzvah of sukkah is to sleep. Half the time you're fulfilling the mitzvah by sleeping, especially those that sleep a lot. And every second is a mitzvah. So he says no, because since there's an incredible or hamakif, an incredible light, spiritual light, and the presence of Hashem is so powerful, how can you sleep in the sukkah? So don't sleep in the sukkah. And then he said, interesting, that, what do you mean? But most people don't feel it. He said, you're right, but if they don't feel it, they're pained that they don't feel it. And if they're pained that they don't feel it, so you're mitzvah and you're putter from the sukkah, you're pained. What that shows us is that if a person should do whatever he can, whatever she can even, to be able to be in the sukkah. Why? Because of the incredible opportunity, the incredible inspiration, the incredible kedusha sanctity that is imbued in the sukkah and goes into every part of ourselves. At the same time, halachically, there are many exemptions, and therefore one should certainly not pain his wife by not being in the sukkah. If someone, for example, their wife is even weak, a little weak, they are exempt. If they have a child that's going to wake up at night and is going to be pained, then wants the parent to be there, they're exempt. A person has to know the halacha, and he has to know also that the spiritual gift that Hashem is giving us. That's a little bit of the power of sukkah. Hatzacha.